Welcome to episode 36 of the LoraineCounty.com Business Insights Podcast. I'm your host, Ed Skimmon, and today we're talking with Joe Miller, candidate for the Ohio House of Representatives for the 53rd District. Join us as Joe shares his motivations for running, his focus on economic growth, and how his priorities will support local businesses and foster collaboration between the public and private sectors. He also discusses the role of technology in government and his professional background and accomplishments. This episode is part of the 2024 Candidate Spotlight Series aimed at providing an additional way to learn about local leaders running for office. Before we get started, I wanted to share a quick disclaimer. Both of the companies I co-founded, Emerge Inc. and LoraineCounty.com, have professional relationships with some of the candidates, and I also count a few of them as personal friends. To ensure fairness, we invited all local candidates to participate and record an episode completely free of charge. Each candidate running for the same office was asked the exact same questions, and aside from removing any unnecessary sounds and long pauses, we kept the editing to a minimum. For a full list of local candidates and issues, visit LoraineCounty.com/election. And on election night, visit LoraineCounty.com for real-time election results. Here is my conversation with Joe Miller.
Joe Miller, I represent District 53 in the Ohio House General Assembly here for the 135th General Assembly currently. I'm running for my final term in office. We are term limited, so this will be my fourth term where I will represent Loraine County, in this particular case, Amherst, Loraine, the Sheffields, all the way to Avon Lake.
Welcome, Joe. Thank you for joining us and sharing your insights. Could you start by talking about what motivated you to run for the Ohio House of Representatives?
I was pretty content. I was a city councilman at large in Amherst. I just had two new boys coming around, and we were creating a family, having an enjoyable time with that. Both my wife and I at that particular time were educators, and that's how we met, and things were great. However, I started to see a lot of disappointing policies come out of Columbus that were impacting not only local government funds, but also education, workforce development, you name it. I just felt like everything that was going down to Columbus was staying in Columbus. And Columbus was getting into this mindset that Columbus knows best for the entire state of Ohio. I actually had a group of people come to me and say, we believe you'd be a great candidate. We'll get behind you and support you. And off we went. And I got elected in November 2018. I've been serving in this role ever since, and it's been good.
Can you outline your main priorities if you're reelected to the Ohio House of Representatives?
Most importantly, economic growth. We got to do that through job creation. Growing up, my dad used to say, you give a man a job and that solves 90% of the problems. And of course, man being generic, but if you allow people to want to thrive and be happy in society, you have to give them the means and the opportunity to find that opportunity through workforce development, through job creation. You sometimes have to pave the way for it. You have to work on infrastructure. You have to assist and give incentives for businesses to expand or to come into the state. So I think that's probably one of the key core pieces that I'm focusing on is economic growth and just supporting those small businesses.
That leads right into my next question. How would your election and the implementation of your priorities benefit local businesses?
I think the backbone of America is small business. Small independent business owners, entrepreneurs, they're really what makes America truly America. They were given the freedom and the opportunity to create a business, whether it's just to employ their family members or employ 500 people or more. They have that opportunity. And so we have to make sure that we provide guidelines, not heavy regulations and restrictions, but kind of rails so that while they're trying to make it in their business, they're remembering the community, they're remembering their workers, they're remembering their environment, and they're taking that into account as they make business decisions and grow their business and be successful.
What role do you see technology and innovative practices playing in the future of the Ohio House of Representatives?
We can record this now, and in about 2 months, it'll change because technology is changing so fast. I really am an avid reader and studier of AI. So generative AI is going to really take over. It's not going to replace workers. It's just going to replace workers who don't know how to use it. And with that being said, we have to get an understanding on how this new technology, this new ability to create patterns of information that allows you to predict, from there, create a product artificially. We have to make sure that we are allowing businesses to take a hold of those technologies, to utilize those technologies, but we also want to make sure that there's guidelines around them so that they're not using them in nefarious ways or in ways that are unfair and really don't keep in mind the customer, their employees, or the environment.
What trends do you see in Lorain County and in Ohio, and how would you like to see government adapt to these changes?
I think there's a lot going on in Lorain County, and that is because there's becoming a partnership between business and between the public sector, private sector. Governments are starting to understand the importance of working together, collaborating. We're starting to get back there. I don't think we're there yet here in Lorain County. There's a lot of opportunity. I'm a big fan of agriculture. I believe that is one of our national defenses. So I don't want to see agriculture pushed out for economic growth, but there is a balance. And sometimes instead of putting up rooftops, maybe it's a good idea to bring some green advanced manufacturing that will create new jobs, new innovative technologies, and allow for Lorain County to continue to thrive economically.
If you're reelected to the Ohio House of Representatives, how will you define success? What metrics will you use to measure your progress towards that success?
In a capitalist entertainment industry, it's really interesting to figure out what your constituents think is success. Me, personally, I believe success is trying to make sure that government is working for the people. So that means I've got to sit there and listen to everybody that has issues, that's struggling with government agencies, struggling with laws, current laws in place, whether it be at the local, the state, or the federal level, and try to find solutions to allow them to have that freedom to work within those guardrails and to be successful. I think some of the things that I believe will be success isn't wins and losses or number of bills signed by the governor or things like that. I believe, although those things have happened, I believe it's really important that we use government and the mechanisms there to solve those problems. And I've been able to work with veterans. I've been able to work with law enforcement, work in education industry and field, and to find those solutions. And that, I think, is where I will lay the success at, that people feel like they can be heard. I meet them where they're at, and that they know I truly want to see them thrive in this new economy.
Let's switch over and talk a little bit about you. What's your background?
I grew up in Amherst, Ohio. I was one of 5, mixed family, had 2 older brothers and a younger brother and then a younger sister, and grew up working poor. It was the 70s. I was born in 69, giving away my age. And the 70s was very tumultuous when it comes to the labor market and my dad coming out of the Army and my mom coming out of the Marine Corps. We're trying to figure out how to raise a family and make ends meet. And we had inflation spikes. We had, in and out of jobs. And so it was a tough time, but it really sharpened the metal, I guess, and made me realize that you have to work hard to get where you want to be. And from there, to be honest with you, I thought there were 3 options: the military, go work at, say, Nordson or Ford or some manufacturing plant, or that was about it. There was no college option because it was just so expensive and nobody in my family was able to afford it or go to it growing up. But I worked my way through community college, went off to BGSU, graduated there with a bachelor's degree in secondary education, became a teacher for about 3 years and realized I can't pay all these student loans and make a living and do what I want to do with this salary. So I left, went into the business, went to a design build firm, then over to a print production firm, and then after 9/11 returned to education and continued on and got 2 more graduate degrees and was at city council, and now I'm a state rep and just trying to figure out how I can continue to serve, because I really believe that service to your community is a lasting legacy that's more than getting rich or having a gold medal around your neck for the Olympics, although they were really cool to watch, I will admit.
In your professional career, what are you most proud of accomplishing?
Every time I've worked with other colleagues or had hired individuals to work under me, one of the biggest things, even currently today in my role today, I have employees that work with me, I have interns, and it's been my greatest success to see them develop and be prepared for the next step in their lives, in their journeys, in their professions, or what they're heading off to. For me, it's that servant leadership that I really enjoy.
Outside of work, what are your hobbies and interests, and how do these help recharge you?
Oh, that's funny. If you ask anybody that knows me, they're like, he's golfing. I bet he's golfing. I wish I golfed as much as I would like to golf, but that's something that really I enjoy. A lot of people used to get on the former president for golfing all the time. And I said, if that's his joy, if that's what recharges his batteries, if that's what he needs to do, then we shouldn't be upset about it. Some people run. I like to golf. I like to spend time with my family on vacations, seeing the world, learning the world, discussing it with my kids as they grow. That's probably the 2 biggest things I enjoy doing, is just traveling as much as possible and golfing as much as possible. But I don't get to do as much of that as I'd like.
Last question. What else should voters know before voting in November?
This is a precarious time. And of course, I'm a registered Democrat, and I believe I'll always be that way because I just feel that we have a sense of empathy right now, especially in this day and age. But there are policies that my party, I don't agree with sometimes. And I push back on that. And I think that good Republicans and unaffiliated will push back against policies that really aren't good for what they believe America should be, Ohio should be. I think you need to just look for somebody who really puts those three major principles of freedom, of justice, and opportunity to where we can have an equitable and just society for everyone, regardless of where they are, who they are, how they live, their economic status, who they love, and where they worship. And I think if we just let people be free to thrive and do that with a sense of respect for each other, and that respect needs to be from both sides of the aisle. You find candidates like that, put them in office, I believe they'll serve you well. I try to strive for that as well. And I think that's our probably number one focus for finding a candidate.
Finally, where can people get more information on your candidacy and connect with you?
That would be easy. It's www.joemiller4ohio.com. So www.joemiller4ohio.com. And if they ever wanted to get a hold of me or text me and say, hey, I got an issue, you can either get a hold of my office or you can text me at 440-544-6353.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for joining us and sharing your insights.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the LoraineCounty.com Business Insights Podcast. We hope you found this conversation informative and that it provided some ideas that will help your business continue to grow. Please follow us on your favorite podcast platform to hear each episode where we shine a spotlight on local resources that will boost your business. And we want to hear from you. Email ed@LoraineCounty.com to share your feedback and topic ideas.